All right, so I'm so happy to be talking to Shristy Vadini, who has an awesome YouTube channel called A Friend on the Inside, where she helps people awaken to spirit and also helps them navigate the difficult terrain of spiritual growth. With her honesty and wisdom and a wonderful sense of humor. Welcome, Shristy, and thanks for talking to me today.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with you, and I just think this is a great idea.
Great. Thanks
Yeah,
so much. And let's just dive into it.
let's do
Um,
it.
how
Okay.
did how did you get into this spirituality?
Oh man, that was a long journey. Do you mean like my personal growth or like communicating with other people, or both?
Your personal. How did it?
Person.
Yeah, just yeah. How did it start?
It's honestly, been a lifelong journey, but it evolved, and it's only now, like they say, um, hindsight is 2020. When you look back, you can see, oh, I get why all that stuff happened.
Right.
So as a child, I grew up as a Christian in the church, super intense relationship, Jesus, Bible, like it was a big part of my life.
Okay.
So I got to understand that way of perceiving religion or relationship with God. And then in my 20s, everything. You go to school, you're at university. I was trained as a scientist, and there was a huge sort of peer pressure that you have to be stupid to believe in anything called the spirit. So I sort of succumbed to peer pressure and went into atheism, and I leaned into that pretty hard
Oh,
also. But then after a while, I got really depressed, and that's really when the what I call my spiritual awakening occurred. It was absolute life-stopping depression, couldn't work, couldn't function, stress on my marriage, inability to socialize, extreme anxiety. And I just decided I didn't want to live like this anymore. And when
and this
you,
was, I'm sorry, this was in your 20s?
no, this was, I think I was 32 when this happened, going on to 33, which
Wow.
I don't know how true it is, but they always say 33 is a big year for change, for transformation. So it just happened to be true for me.
Yeah.
Um, so I tried a whole bunch of different things. Nothing was working. Therapist, that did not resonate. I looked around for all sorts of stuff. And eventually I found a few different teachers because when you look for help, the help comes. So books came. Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now came. Different teachers, different meditation techniques, different yoga techniques, breathing techniques, even down to sort of like hypnotherapy or just diff- therapy with different therapists, but not conventional, not sort of like psychiatrists, but more people who are willing to do the shadow work with you. They came, and that lasted, well, intensely. It lasted for a few months. Then I have a really dear friend and mentor of mine, very big on my spiritual path. Her name was Charlene. She's not with us anymore. But Charlene, she was indigenous, Native American here in New Brunswick. And she said, okay, I understand what's happening to you. You know, how you're feeling about society, yourself, your image, disconnect, anger, release. And she brought me to her home and she said, stay with me for a while and we'll do vision quests, we'll do healing ceremonies, forgiveness ceremonies, that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So I did that very intensely for about a year or so. And then, like, so much was released, so much came up, so much insight. Like, she really taught me that perspective of what she calls earth based spirituality, connecting with the elements, connecting with your body, connecting with the earth, and just understanding that you are not separate from that. It is one with you. And that had to be the first thing that came because the atheist in me would not take any teachings. I remember the first time I saw Eckhart Tolle's book, I was like, what is this? Get this out of my house. I
Mm,
didn't want anything to do with it. So
mm,
I had to be snuck into it because you can't argue with earth-based spirituality, the fact that you're connected to everything. You can't argue with that. And then from that, I brought presence, came in, fire keeping, sweat lodges. I learned to be still. And when you learn to be still a little bit, you can accept a little more teachings. So more and more, Eckhart Tolle really helped me to understand what was happening, understand what my problem was and what the solution is.
yeah.
And then after that, well, I started reconnecting with sort of like my ancestral teaching. So I went into the East, into yogic culture and meditation consciousness from that perspective.
Mhm.
And well, I ended up staying there in Charlene's community for quite a while. And I got involved. I learned a lot from them, but then also the stuff that I learned, I was able to teach again. And during COVID, there was so much anxiety and there was so much, isolation, and people needed to connect and different things happening in the community. People were like, okay, we need mental health support. And I remember I happened to live on a hill, and I was sitting on the hill under this birch tree, and I was just meditating and feeling good. And I came down, I was just beaming a smile, just the most contented smile ever. And people remember when I was sad and isolated and stuff. And my friend Abby, who leads the youth center there, she said, why are you so peaceful? What's that smile about?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh my gosh, girl, it's just meditation, just breathing, just stillness. I
Mm-hmm.
wish I could teach this to everyone. And she said, well, let's do it then.
Mm-hmm.
And we just started. I think it was every day at noon on a Facebook group, live meditation for 12 minutes. And then afterwards, the health center liked it. And then the elders, the women's group, a whole bunch of people are like, this is doable, And of course, I had navigated the intense teachings of the yoga culture. It's like this book and that book. And it's all like, oh my God, it's so much. But these people are just like, teach me right now, right now. How can I be okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I learned how to explain all of those things in the simplest, most accessible way. You don't need to go to an ashram or climb a mountain somewhere to learn to be okay in your spirit. And then that evolved and it turned into the channel, and then the channel turned into a book. And it turns out that people just they want to know these things as immediately as possible.
Yeah.
How do I find peace right now?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
That
that's my story.
No, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful, and it's so funny because it somewhat aligns with me in the
Yeah.
sense that I grew up Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sort of all the Catholic guilt and shame and all that
Right, right.
craziness that was with it. But I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really into it though.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would call myself an atheist. I think I kind of went through an atheist,
Mm-hmm.
phase too,
Mm-hmm.
or where I
Yeah.
didn't believe in anything.
Mm-hmm.
And in my late 20s and then early 30s, I mean, I had intense suffering and where I was suicidal. I mean, I had
Oh,
suicidal
yeah.
thoughts and all that stuff. And it got to the point where it was
Wow.
like, something's got to change because it's
Yes.
like, if something doesn't change, I'm out of here. I mean,
Yes.
crazy,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about this later, but because I've seen a couple videos of yours where you talk about prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in prayer because
Absolutely.
I got down on my knees and I said, "Help! I said,
Absolutely.
help me!"
Yeah.
And Wayne Dyer came into my life.
Love him.
Yeah, he was teaching the power now on PBS. Back in the day, and this happened like 20 years ago or so. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this was, when before the internet was really a big, thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I bought his stuff from PBS and I started meditating for the first time in my early 30s, right around, I don't know if it was 33, it could have been 34, 35, but right around
Mm-hmm.
there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was jogging down this jogging around a park and I had I said a prayer for somebody that I met and I had an awakening. So my
Wow.
first, and then it stuck and I knew something happened, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't into spiritual except Wayne Dyer, but
Yeah.
um I don't know. I went through a couple, 6 or 7 crazy months. And then I remember this to this day. I was in a Barnes and Nobles walking down an aisle. For some reason, I turned and there was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and I picked it up and I was like, oh my God, this is what has happened, or this, I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And then but it's been those 20 years is, and then teaching about pain bodies and I'm just like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, I got those things, I
Don't
got
we
a
all?
lot of pain bodies,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was the first time that I understood what they were, and it was the first time where I read from somebody who says you don't have to believe your thoughts.
Yes.
Don't have to believe your thoughts.
Yes.
And that to me was a revelation because I was believing my thoughts and
Yeah.
the feelings behind them, the pain
Yeah.
body, because they're
Absolutely.
your thoughts. I mean, that's, I didn't know better. And so,
Mhm.
So he, basically saved my life. I mean, I would, it saved my,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Absolutely. It's amazing. The best stuff happens in bookstores.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and they're coming back. They actually,
Yes.
they open a Barnes and Noble actually in a neighborhood near me after
Nice.
years of closing them down.
Yeah, yeah. You always get messages. Every time I go to a bookstore, a book sale, anything like a free book library, whatever, I talk to the universe and I say, "What message do you have for me?" And I scan and I was like, "Yep, that's the one. That's what I have to learn or experience or surrender." Great messages come from books. And
Right.
I also agree that Eckhart saved my life. I was also suicidal,
Oh,
sort
okay.
of 32 into 33 when I got super depressed. I actually spent several months in bed, refusing to leave the house, refusing to leave my bed. I
Yeah.
lost a lot of weight and not in a good way, like just not eating. Food
Yeah.
couldn't go down. I didn't have any desire, any appetite.
Oh, wow.
Um, I was I I was disappointed in myself for not being strong enough to kill myself. Like seriously, that's how bad it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Well, thank God. I mean, that, yeah, it didn't
thank
happen
you.
because,
Thank you. And the same to you too.
yeah.
And it's I love the synchronicity of the thing today. The video that I released on my channel the day that we're filming this is that depression is the first step in spiritual awakening.
Mm,
It's when
yeah.
you start to realize it is actually a form of awareness. It's the awareness of how you are and the desire to be different. And that
Mm,
desire comes from the higher part of yourself.
mm,
So whether you call it the self, the Atman, the higher self, I just use the word spirit because
yeah.
we're under the illusion that there's we're physical, mental. That's all we are. And
Right.
no, there is a much, much bigger part of the iceberg under the waterline. And
Right.
that is the spirit part of us that we are currently. And that part of us knows better, wants better, and is nudging us towards being better. And depression is acknowledging the way life is not how you want it. But behind that statement is also, I want it to be better.
Hmm.
And I want it to be better is from a higher part of yourself. So it is the
Yeah.
first time
Yeah.
that you really start surrendering to that desire. So it's difficult. And thank God for the guides in physical form or in the form of books
Yeah.
online that
Yeah.
come to us and reach through that darkness, crack it through a little bit and let a little bit of the light shine in.
Yeah.
It help does come because when you're saying I want different,
Yeah.
you're you're agreeing. Your will is aligning to what spirit is saying. You're saying I want better. That is a form of asking. It's a form of allowing. It's a form of receiving.
Yeah.
And help will come in some way.
Right.
And then you just have to keep responding to it. It's a bit of a decision point because some people, again, we're so identified with the thoughts in our minds that when the depression becomes so strong and so pervasive, we stick to the depression when help is offered, when a helper comes or knowledge comes or a book. We say, no, I'm depressed. Nothing could help me. Nothing, I'm unhelpable. I'm beyond hope.
Right.
And that's the moment that the transformation happens is the moment we step away from that identity and say, what is this help that's coming to me? Let me open myself to this and try it out. And I was like I said, full atheist at the time, so I was really really resistant to help. I think we all go through atheism, like, you know when you go through formal religion,
Hmm.
there is a we tend to find groups or people that are not they're not respecting the relationship with God. So we start to feel, taken advantage of. And our rebellion, our trauma response to that is atheism. So we protect ourselves from,
Hmm.
I'm never going to be a fool again. I'm never going to believe nonsense again. I'm never going to be tricked again.
Hmm.
And that's where I was at. So when knowledge came to me, I was like, nope, nope, this is rubbish. This is rubbish. People were saying, go meditate, go to this temple, this ashram, this whatever. And I was like, nope, it's not going to happen.
Hmm.
And I remember my husband was into, he found Eckhart Tolle first and
Hmm.
he started reading it and he's like, I think you should read this.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, let me try it. And I looked through a few pages of it and I put it down. and it disturbed me. The dissonance was so strong, it disturbed me. I couldn't go to sleep. Well, I
Mm,
was already, racked with insomnia, but I just was like on my mind, and I was raging. And it
mm.
was, New Brunswick, middle of the winter, super cold. I get up in my nightshirt, I grab the book, I go down 3 flights of stairs, I walk to the curb, I open the bin, and I throw it away in the
Oh.
snow. I'm like knee deep in snow, and I get this out of my house. I do not want
Oh
this.
my God. I love it.
I know.
I
And
love
look
it.
at me later. I ended up
Yeah.
running a book study group on the power of now 2 or 3 times. The
Yeah.
first series I did on my YouTube
Yeah.
channel is the power of now. The number one thing I teach people is the effect of pain bodies in your life.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying this. I don't want to digress or speak in circles,
No,
but
no,
I'm
no.
just talking about how in the beginning,
Yeah.
the resistance is so strong
Yeah.
because we're holding on to whatever that we think is protecting us. Fear, isolation, distrust. We think that those things are there to protect us. So we hold on to it when the truth comes to us. But your spirit's not going to give up on you.
Yeah.
Spirit wants you, it wants you to feel that release. It
Yeah.
wants you to wake up. It wants you to come closer to it and to,
Right.
to live from that higher knowledge, and
Right.
it will come to you in many different ways until you receive it. And eventually you will receive it. And the help is, it's amazing. Charlene always said, you take one step towards spirit and spirit comes running towards you.
Mm,
Yeah.
hmm. Right, right. No, I love that. The ego can be like, because the ego on a certain level could feel like, oh, it's gonna die
Yes.
if
Yes.
you take this book. So I got it,
Exactly.
on a subconscious level, it's kind of like out, out,
Yes.
out.
Yes. I
Yeah.
have never felt so strongly or such rage about anything as I did towards that book. I still remember it. I was like, I got up out of bed in the middle of the night. It
Yeah.
must have been like 2 in the morning or something.
Wow.
Like, how angry do you have to be at a book?
Right.
Yeah. But like
And
you
to
said,
go outside and,
it was,
and
I didn't put on a coat. I didn't put on boots. I walked out in the snow barefooted. It was, yeah, clearly I was not well.
yeah,
But
no.
it's the ego. It really is. Remember at that point you're identified, like literally your sense of I
Yeah.
is identified with the ego, which when you really, really delve into it, the ego is just a collection of fears and boundaries and limitations.
Yeah.
So you are fear.
Right.
And when anything starts to dissolve that, you're like, if I stop being afraid, I will stop being, I will stop existing. And then that is the most terrifying thing. So
Right.
it's obviously a big ask and a big step to to step away from ego.
Yeah, yeah, and we're not you. Yeah, and who would I be without that anger or without that identity?
Yes,
It's
yes.
like, and we're not used to it. And I mean, I just love that because there are many times, and I mean, the one thing I love about you and watching your videos is that, you're honest. You're not, and you're just like, hey, I've been
Mhm.
through the ringer, and I've been through it, so I know, and that's what I appreciate about you
Thank
is
you.
that you're honest about that. You're not like somebody who, and I'm not saying about other teachers or anything, but some people might not be as honest as they
Mhm,
could be
mhm.
or whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that I appreciate your honesty. And I mean, I totally know what that's like. And I've many times where I would give the finger to source or spirit. I would be like, screw you. God damn it.
Yeah.
I'm so upset about, and I know it was my ego, but I was just many times, even after my awakening, even
Mhm,
after, I went through, a lot of years of
mhm,
dissolving, purifying,
mhm,
paint bodies, doing shadow stuff.
mhm.
And it's, it's difficult, but you have to stay with it.
Yeah.
And you do get better and you do heal. And I think
Yes.
both of us, we are what's a good word? Product or examples of the healing.
Mhm, mhm,
You
mhm.
know?
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say the end result because the healing never ends.
Yeah,
It's not a journey that's finished, and that's something
yeah,
else that I'm honest about.
yeah,
Is that every day I get angry, depressed, cry every now and then. It's
yeah,
much less,
yeah.
but we have to be honest about it. We tend to in spirituality we tend to put on an image that I am perfectly fine, and I have
Right.
always been perfectly fine. Like when I was depressed, for part of it, I had a job. For most of that depression phase, I had a job. And I would, get dressed in the morning, go out. It was customer service based. I was interacting with
Right.
people and I had to have a personality. And I smiled and nobody knew
Yeah.
I was depressed. It was
Right.
years before I said the word depressed.
Right.
I never acknowledged that I had anxiety. And, a lot of the people that I've worked with over the years, they've either been depressed, a lot of people dealing with addictions,
Right.
a lot of people dealing with regret, things you've done that you're not happy with. And how are we going to help each other if we're pretending that none of us go through these things, you
Right.
know? And people that I meet every day that are like actively on the awakening path, they're working on their awakening, they're healing, their shadow work. They find a lot of comfort when I say, hey, I mess up, I lose faith, I get depressed, I scream at spirit once in a while.
Right. Right.
There was a time when I would, like I was telling someone just a couple of days ago, I would cry every day. Now I cry maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I lose faith. I
Right.
become despondent. It's still something that happens, but
Right.
it is not my predominant state.
Right.
I mostly dwell in trust, faith,
Yeah.
peace, love. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, me too. It seems it's like, the pain bodies are, this big and then as you continue to go,
Yes.
it does get less and less and it's
Yes.
just amazing.
Yes. Yes.
And go on. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Oh,
you're constantly purging, you're constantly
yeah,
releasing, and you don't like 30, 40 years of suppressed emotions and energies don't disappear in a moment. They
right,
disappear a bit at a time, like bubbles in a glass of pop, it just surfaces one at a time, they leave. But there's always something there, and it's always something a little more hidden from a little further long ago.
right,
And it comes up and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going through this again. I thought I was done healing. You're never done healing. It's always
right,
coming up.
right.
But as you understand how healing happens, as you surrender and you're willing to heal, then it becomes something you embrace. You say, okay, like I was helping a friend today who was releasing something and she started to cry and whatnot. And she said, the understanding we came to is it's okay. There's still sadness in my heart,
Yeah,
and I can let the sadness out
yeah,
and not become the sadness, not be overwhelmed by the
right,
sadness,
right.
and not carry the sadness forward for weeks and months. Right now, I'm watching the sadness and I'm letting it be. And that's the transmutation process that Eckhart Tolle talks about, right?
Yeah, no, no, it's brilliant. And that's what I went through when I read The Power of Now, where it's like you don't have to be your thoughts and you could just be with it, be the observer and
Mm-hmm.
be present with it. And and that is the transmuting process that you talk about.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that. And I remember, on the floor of my kitchen, with, in a fetal position and my suicidal thoughts were going on.
Mm.
I mean, I could talk about it now. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
know when people are in it, it
It's
sucks.
no, no, of
It
course. Yeah, it's terrible.
it
And
hurts
yeah.
and my heart goes out to them. And but you can heal and you can get better because we both have done that.
Absolutely.
um but when you're there, I mean, I'm just okay, I'm watching my thoughts. I remember sweating the first time that I started practicing that, and I was just okay, I'm just going to watch my thought, and these can be very dark. And it's in your voice. It's in your voice. It's saying,
Yeah.
I don't want to say to people out there to be sensitive, but it was telling me to get something, to do something
Hmm.
in my life.
Hmm.
Okay. But, and it just kept, and I was just, I'm just gonna be with it,
Yeah.
observe with it.
And
And
allow it.
that was the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in my case, it lasted, I don't know, a couple hours. You know,
Yeah.
for that first time. I mean, it didn't like,
Hmm.
and it went,
Hmm.
let's say, I don't know, it took me a while for it to really start, that volume start coming down. Um, and months, many months, and then over the years, just exactly like what you're saying. I mean, I haven't had a suicidal thought in, like, I don't know, 7, 8 years, like blah blah blah. But it went from
Hmm.
a certain period of time to where it was almost like daily to then maybe weekly, then and then it would happen maybe monthly, and then every 6 months. It got constantly got small, less and less energy of that. And
Yes.
at the
Yes.
same time, your presence grows and your ability to
Yes.
be with it,
Yeah.
you cultivate that muscle. It
Yes.
reminds me of
Muscle.
what
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle said. He also said something in The Power of Now or New Earth, which I don't, sometimes
Yeah. Mix the two up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, they're
Or
both
one of
great.
his talks or one of his videos,
Right,
something. Yeah.
right. Where he said that though, but having the pain bodies, people who have intense pain bodies, um, that, hey, that could be a good thing because you could use that as fuel to be in presence, to use as
Yes.
presence, to be
Yes.
with it
Yeah.
and to be the observer. So,
Yeah. Exactly. Because pain bodies, when you really get into it, they're so consciousness, energy, thoughts, feelings, unprocessed feelings,
yeah,
pain bodies. So pain bodies are an absolute condensation of consciousness. So the pain body is extremely dense and extremely dark, but as it releases, it goes back up through that process. You go back up through, you release it as an emotion and it generates thoughts and whatnot, but then it releases as consciousness, as pure divine energy.
hmm
I think it is in the power of now. I think he describes it as a burning log. You
yeah,
have a log to burn,
right,
and that yes,
right,
and then the more presence is like that bright brilliant flame. So the
right,
more logs you have, the more flame you have,
right,
the more presence you have, the more flame you put towards it, the bigger
right,
the heat, and then it just becomes this raging thing that just burns up, and it's
right,
absolutely beautiful.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I remember one something I was thinking of when you were speaking there. Um, the one of the most comforting things, especially in the beginning when I was on this healing journey, because I was overwhelmed with looking and reading and searching and trying to figure out what should I do? What can I do? What is the technique? Should I go to someone who has a technique?
yeah,
And it was so infinitely comforting to me when he said that to observe it is enough. And
hmm
I'm doing this because I underlined it and more than underlined. But
hmm
my first copy of the Power of Now is covered with underlinings.
oh yeah,
But that sentence, I literally drew a thick box around it. It's the only
right,
time in the whole book that I do that. It's
right,
my favorite line in the entire book. To observe it is enough.
right,
And in the beginning, when I didn't know, I was like, should I do this? Should I do that? Which is again the ego trying to become the doer.
right,
I would be like, okay, do not be overwhelmed. Do not feel guilty about this pattern. Do not be ashamed of this pattern. Do not attack the pattern. Do not judge the pattern. Do not
right,
whatever. Don't try to smother it. Don't try to burn it. Don't try to run away from it. Don't try to suppress it. Observe it. Watch it. And
right,
that has helped me since that day for more than a decade. When something comes up, I I don't try to fix it and I don't feel bad that I have no idea where to begin fixing it. I just look at it and I say, there it is.
yeah,
There it is. And as long as you're not, as long as you're not, as long as you're aware that it exists, it can't control you. Existing and controlling you are two different levels of bad, right?
yeah,
Ex- if there's a voice in the room where you are, there's a voice and it's annoying and it's bothering you. But if that voice is telling you what to do and you're listening to it, then you have a very serious problem. So once you look at it, the voice is no longer telling you what to do. It's just a voice, and you can carry on with life and ignore it. It has no powers. I'm not sure if it's Eckhart or another teacher referred to it as dead snakes. It's like being in a room with a snake that was dangerous to you. But
hmm
once you start to watch and you know it's there, it's no longer dangerous to you because the
right,
danger is it's unconsciously controlling you and acting through you. And if you
right,
look at it, it can't act through you.
right, right. And it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just bringing that, like what you said, awareness and just being with it,
Yeah.
and it can't take you over. Now, I admit, I've been
Mhm.
taken over
Yeah.
plenty of times.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm just like, ah. And I think he talks about it in the book, both books, whichever one, where it's like, okay, it's okay. Just you are now starting to become aware of it, especially people who are getting new into this spirituality. It's like there's like a learning curve.
Mhm, mhm,
There's not like you're not going to get this right away, and it just like what you said in this incarnation, and whatever past lives, whatever. But in this incarnation, we have been conditioned,
mhm.
and quite frankly, some of us have been traumatized as kids, and young people, and that conditioning um is it needs to is not going to change overnight.
No.
It's going to there's sort of a rewiring of our nervous system and
Mhm,
getting used to this. The I like to say is like it's the old ego self to now we're becoming a new divine self or divine ego, whatever, because we still need an ego to participate in
mhm.
this world of
To
form.
function, right?
Yeah, to function. But it takes time for that um because we're in a meat suit, we're in a body,
Yeah,
right? We
yeah.
this has been conditioned. So if we've been conditioned to basically suffer and be in the ego land and separation consciousness and all that stuff with the depression, the anger, anxiety, all that stuff. Shame was big with
Mm,
me
mhm,
with
mhm.
being Catholic and depression. That that is going to take some time, and depending on whatever karma or whatever, conditioning you have, it could be, I don't know, it could take longer or shorter, whatever, but, it just depends on but also putting the effort into it. And what I like about your channel and what you do is that you give practical tools and you like tell people to, and you give workshops too and everything.
Yes, yes.
So, if you want to, talk about that and, anything like, you know,
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I believe in helping people immediately. And that's not, being dismissive of the whole journey, but
yeah,
a lot of the times when you're looking at consciousness, spirituality, awakening, people focus on this big, massive, unattainable end goal of enlightenment. I'm going to
right,
become enlightened. And they
right,
put so much effort towards it. But my goal is to really help people who are suffering right now. And I
right,
can actually remember the day when one of the core teachings I teach, which is just simply being, how to be, the bliss and beauty of being, which I first experienced in a meditation by Muji, who
mhm,
just does these heart-based meditations that are
yeah,
fantastic.
hmm,
And one day I was doing this workshop on anxiety, and I was like, anxiety is such a big thing. You have to really understand it, and you have to have a whole bunch of tools on how to deal with it. And my goal was to do like to have a group of people go through this weekly workshop for a long time and discuss and learn about anxiety.
hmm,
And one of my friends, wonderful woman, she brought her mom on, and her mom was in her late 80s and had bad hearing. Her mom was a very happy, jovial, easygoing woman, but she recently had an illness, went to the hospital, and became gripped by anxiety.
hmm,
And so she came and she's like, "Tell me what to do about anxiety." And she can, she's not quite hearing. She didn't read any of the books. She's not engaging in the conversations because she was a one-time visitor. And I was like, okay, what can I tell her right now? That's simple that she can follow. I don't have to get into theories and we don't have to read
right,
chapter 1 and chapter 2 and just like
right,
right now,
right,
what do you need to experience? And it occurred to me, and this is when you start to become still, you start to just hear a deeper level of guidance.
hmm,
And it occurred to me, all she needs to know is that she is already okay. She's
right,
forgotten that.
yeah,
The okay part of you never ceases. Your awareness goes somewhere else and forgets that. So I was like, okay, let's get her to experience being, her is state, her I am state, that stillness inside of her. And I was like, well, that's easier said than done. But really, the easiest way to do this is with breath awareness. If your awareness, so the ego isn't the problem, the
yeah,
awareness of the ego, the fact that you are 100% identified with what is happening, like you're captivated, mesmerized, like
right,
hypnotized by this ego,
right,
that is what is keeping you in the suffering because the ego is only going to remind you of pain, guilt, trauma, fear, anxiety, worry. That's all it really gives you.
yeah,
But if you can lift your awareness off of that then you're going to realize that what isn't this voice
Right.
is peaceful and
Right.
is loving.
Right.
It already is. And the only easy way, I think, and that I've come across to shift your awareness from the ego is with breath awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Take that awareness, your attention. The most precious thing that you really have is your attention, and put your attention on your breathing
Yeah.
and your full attention. And I'm not talking breath work, and I'm not talking pranayama. That's different. You breathe to achieve different results. I'm talking about put your awareness on breathing. Feel the breath, listen to the breath, watch the breath, move the breath, immerse yourself on that breath. And then realize that that breath is associated with energy. That energy is associated with a calm, peaceful feeling. And then all of a sudden you realize, wow, I'm just floating in this white light and it's peaceful. I'm content. I need nothing. I fear nothing. I worry about nothing.
Yeah.
And if you can remember that once a day, that's basically what I teach people. Once a day, 10 minutes being meditation.
Yeah.
That's it. And
Yeah.
then when you go about your life and the ego is trying to distract you and people are trying to upset you and whatever, you go and your pain bodies rise up. You don't dwell in suffering
Mm.
and yearn to be in stillness. You dwell in stillness and watch different forms of suffering try to take your awareness. And you
Right.
go, I don't want to suffer. I'm going to stay in my stillness. And from this place of stillness, I'm going to find inspiration on how to deal with and address the things in my life. I'm not going to ignore it. I don't, a lot of people think it's this a dissociation. It's not. It's addressing the mess or the darkness or whatever in your life
Yeah.
from the stillness that you already are. So I basically teach two techniques that I believe together achieve what we need. One is that being. When you know how you are,
Mm.
you how you are not, the lie of the ego stops distracting you, right? So experience being once a day, and then start purging. Purge the pain bodies, the energies, the scars, the traumas, all that kind of stuff. And that is what Eckhart Tolle calls transmutation. In the yogic culture, it's called completion. In Christianity, it's just called place it at the feet of Jesus. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
But what I'm always cautious to say, because this is where the ego wants to remain relevant and sabotage you, the ego wants to do it, and you can't do it.
Mhm.
Only from a place of presence can you do this. So
Yeah.
you have to depending on how you view it or the language you use, you can say, I want to sit with God, I want to go be with God. Or you can say, I want to get into my divine consciousness, the self. And from there, you
Yeah.
can watch, not engage with, not fight with, not wrestle with, but watch the pattern. And the light here makes the darkness there go away. And it's the only way to do it. So I call it alchemy,
Yeah.
energy alchemy, because this energy has turned to darkness and we're trying to transform it back into light. And
Right.
it's a short meditation. And I say, if you do 10 minutes of being and 10 minutes of energy alchemy per day, honestly, in my experience with people that I work with, 2 weeks, you will not recognize your life. It
Yeah.
will become so much sweeter, so much calmer.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. Yeah, we're no, we're uh anybody who goes on this path are alchemists. I
Yes.
totally agree is that in the crucible of our of our being we burn up the what isn't true.
Yes.
What
Yes.
isn't true, which is the pain bodies, the delusions,
Mm-hmm.
negative habits of mind, whatever, and the light it remains. How do we know it's not true? And it's because it can dissolve. It can
Mm-hmm.
like not be there
Mm-hmm.
anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's
Okay.
it. The
And
only truth is the thing that never changes.
right,
Yeah.
right. Oh, great. That's a great segue. I mean, we're going to get back to this
Yeah. Yeah.
because I just love talking about this, but the it never changes. Why did you call your channel a friend on the inside?
I bet if I asked 100 people, I'd get 100 different answers. And I don't want to break any hearts or disappoint anyone.
Okay.
Whatever you relate to is partially true, but the reason I did it
Uh-huh.
is because I'm talking about that higher part, that higher guidance,
Yeah.
spirit inside of you. So in some, some language, um, some words that people use, they'll say the higher self. Some people say the self with a capital S, the Atman, the real
Right.
you.
Right.
Um, or even within, like, because I've really made peace, back to my roots with Christianity, and I understand that all of this knowledge is in the Bible. Not every church or every Christian teaches it, but it's in there. Jesus
Right.
was big on all of this stuff.
Right.
And the Holy Spirit that God talks about inside of you, the the ever-present help and guidance from a higher level of consciousness,
Hmm.
that is, it is what's brought you here, and it is what guides you here.
Hmm.
Whatever name you give that, I call that your friend on the inside.
Yeah, I love it. And it's a unchanging friend. And it's a friend of unconditional love and peace. Just
Yes.
like what you said. I I love what you said about Jesus. I kind of had a little pain body about Jesus because growing up Catholic, and so forth. And over since my awakening, and then actually over the last, I don't know, 10 years, especially the last 5 years, I've gotten um, more into Jesus's teachings
Yeah.
and even the Bible. And you're absolutely right. He he was talking about helping you reach the truth, which
Yes.
is in all of us.
Yes.
The same, you know, uh, uh, Buddha nature or spirit or whatever you want
Mm-hmm.
to call it was in Jesus, that is, and Buddha is in us and
Mm-hmm.
in everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Absolutely.
It's a oneness.
Yes.
It can't be in other. And I agree. I mean, maybe some other time we could talk about it more. But I bu- I've been recently over the last year or so saying, Jesus, he was trying to heal pain bodies back then. I mean, they
Absolutely.
called them demons, but those were pain bodies,
Yes, I know.
you
I,
know,
I what I understand when I hear Jesus's words about pain, about demons, is a pain body. It's
right,
the same thing.
right,
It's a collection of darkness inside of you that controls you, that you need to get rid of,
right,
and that can control many people at the same time. It is the
y-
definition of demons.
right.
And also, and this is when I actually made peace with the church, because I was
Uh,
like, bad church, like, for a while.
yeah.
And one day I was helping someone. I was volunteering at a Catholic church, and which I wasn't raised Catholic. I was raised Protestant. So the Catholic church and the structures and the shapes and the figures was not something I was familiar with.
Uh-huh.
But there was this lady there, and she was like 95 years old, and she was just sitting at the table, and she was all crunched over, and
Hmm.
she was not talking, and she had like a veil on, and she was just kind of like this character from a book or something, and she's just sitting there. And then at one point, she hasn't said anything for like 2 hours. And then she
Uh-huh.
just turns to me and she looks at me and she leans in and she says, "Do you know who the devil is?" And I'm like, no, but I bet you're going to tell me. And
Right.
she says, "The devil is your mind." And I was like, "What?" And something like, when you hear
Hmm.
truth, it resonates with you.
Hmm.
And that started a whole thing. I just started, I opened up, I heard spirit, I started to cry, I went into the chapel area there, and I like started touching the statues, and I was like, "I'm so sorry, I love you." It was like a
Yeah.
whole thing. It was one of those moments in life, right? And but since then, the guidance I got that day in prayer and surrender is go and listen to Jesus's word again,
Mm-hmm.
his words, and just the four gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Hmm.
Listen to what Jesus says specifically
Hmm.
about the devil or Satan, and you will understand that he is talking about the ego,
Yeah.
the ego,
Yeah.
and the way it works, the way it controls you, the way it influences you, what it wants, how it's against God. The only thing that is against God is the illusion of not being God.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that really, that was the healing of my relationship with Jesus, when I realized you're saying exactly. I just wasn't ready to hear those words. We don't talk about that with Jesus. We think that he was talking about like a physical devil with a tail and
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
Right. Right. And when you see it through that lens, you're like, oh, of course. It's all,
Yeah.
the demons are in you. And he talks about the light. You are the light.
Mhm.
You are
Yeah.
the
You
light.
are the light. Yeah.
Yeah. You are the
Yeah.
light. Yeah.
The devil is just simply the one who tempts you into anything that will distract you from hearing the voice of God, the spirit inside of you.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Because that is the wickedest thing that could happen, is that you can muffle, um, drown out the sound of a higher consciousness inside of you.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And well, yeah, I mean it's the the ego can be very cunning. And I think
Mhm.
that they I I mean it's in your voice and you know you shouldn't be like doing this or doing that or whatever. And yet this voice comes in your head and says, no, 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 you gotta, act in this,
Mhm.
unkind way or
Mhm.
do this.
Mhm.
And it could feel when I first had my awakening and was doing my sitting with the pain bodies, I c- that was one of the first times where I felt like, oh my God, these voices, I could understand how people think there's a devil
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it could feel so like real, but it's just your ego cunning thoughts
Mhm.
trying to
Mhm.
stay alive and
Yeah. Yeah.
in control,
Yeah.
you
One
know.
of the best depictions of it in pop culture that I've ever seen was in this movie called Cloud Atlas. I don't know if you've seen it,
Cloud it,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, and Tom Hanks,
yeah.
his character, there was a guy and he was like he was here all the time
Uh-huh,
and nothing positive. It was always, don't trust that person. This person's trying to get you. You should kill that
uh-huh,
person. You should get rid of that person. And
uh-huh,
that's what the ego feels like to me.
yeah,
And like what you were saying, why it's in your own voice,
yeah.
and not just that, but it comes across as righteous, you know?
Hmm.
So, for
Yeah.
example, your ego is going to say, I don't think that is correct. That person is bad. That person's up to something, and
Mhm.
I should stop that person from being bad. But and this happened to me. It actually happened to me twice in the past year, both times in social gatherings, and I'm seeing it faster and faster, and it's happening to me less and less. But in a social gathering, I'll say that person is being rude, and then I will create a narrative in my mind, and then I'll start to
Right,
believe it, and then I'll say I should say something and I should stand up,
right,
and then the next day when you look at it, you're like, wow, I was so what? How did I get caught up in this
right,
story?
right,
When did I make up this story about this person? That person, what that person is doing, I have no idea what that person is doing. Why
right.
am I imagining it? And why am I believing it? Because it's in your own voice, and
Yeah,
it's because it's the voice of the hero. Go fix this. Be aware of this. Be vigilant about that.
yeah,
And you feel like, I've spotted this conspiracy. Somebody's out to get me, and I figured it out. That's just hypervigilance, and that's just really identifying with the ego.
yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
that's yeah, and it's so true, and that you're catching it now, and I think
Mhm.
that is one of the hallmarks of when people say, "Hey, am I growing spiritually, or where am I?" If you're starting to catch this now, if you're starting to become aware of these pain bodies, of these stories
Mhm.
now, then you're growing,
Yeah.
because before you were taken over.
Yes.
Like this happened to me like a year ago, and where I had a crush on somebody, and we're friends, but she was talking to somebody and another man, and I had this insane jealousy come up in me, and I
Mhm.
was just like, oh my God, where did this come from?
Mhm.
And by the way, I've been on the spiritual path for 20 years, and this should not be happening. I've done a lot of pain body work.
Mhm.
My spiritual pride then got bruised because I've been,
Mhm.
and because you could go, I mean, as you progress, there could be like weeks and weeks and months where it's like, wow, things are great.
Mhm.
No pain, nothing,
Mhm.
and then suddenly this happened, psh,
Mhm.
and this jealousy just took over, and
Mhm.
the stories, and,
Yeah.
uh, you know,
Yeah.
old like getting cheated on in high
The
school, and
memories. Yeah.
all that
Mhm.
stuff came up, and it was like, okay, it's time for me to look at this. It's time to
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
purification. Okay.
Yes,
And
that's it. That's it.
yeah,
That's the measure of, is are you making progress in the spiritual awakening path? It's not, am I free of pain bodies? I
yeah,
think probably in almost every single human being, you're never going to be free of pain bodies. You're
yeah,
either going to be constantly purging old stuff or even
yeah,
sometimes creating new stuff. Who knows, right? What it is am I completely consumed by them?
Right.
Am I unconsciously run by them, or do I, what I call, snap out of it? Do I snap out of it and say, hey, wait, what?
Yeah.
That's one. And then two, do I surrender and say, I don't want this anymore? Let's release it.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, no matter how much you're doing it, you're making progress on the spiritual path. It's a snapping out of when it arises. Can you step away from the voice and watch the voice? That's that. I literally thank God every time that happens. I say that moment is grace, and it is your spirit reaching out and yanking you and saying, hey, don't go
Right.
there. Come back here. Come back here. And
Right.
I always give thanks for that moment. That is grace.
Yeah. No, no, it's powerful. And I think that um we have to be sort of spiritual like warriors in the sense that I mean, at least being like okay with facing um the pain bodies or being willing to because it's not I mean in my this is just my opinion. I mean this spirituality isn't for like weaklings or in this I mean
Yeah.
if you don't want to like face your shit in all in all honesty, then
Mm-hmm.
this you might not be ready in
Yeah.
just all truth because um yeah, and there's some times, and maybe you feel the same, that I think you also mentioned this, where it's like you get to a point where it's like, okay, I'm ready for let's go. I'm bring it at me, I
Yes.
bring a pain body for me so that I can purify it. You get excited for
Yes. Yes. When you understand what's happening,
yeah,
that's why I start with anchor yourself in being. When you know that you are
yeah,
well, you are protected, you are guided,
right,
and you are able and you can survive.
yeah,
One of the metaphors, the visuals that I use is that you're not the clouds, you're the sky.
yeah, yeah.
When you know that you're the
Yeah.
sky,
Yeah.
if a cloud starts forming, you're like, oh, no big deal. It comes, it goes. If it came, it will go. That's
Yeah.
a guaranteed truth.
Yeah.
And after a while, you're like, you know what? I'm tired of this cloud looming. Come on, cloud, just burst and rain and go away.
Right.
And you're not afraid because you're not, a sky doesn't get wet. The sky is a sky.
Right.
Let the cloud burst. It's fine.
Thunder and lightning and all that stuff.
If you're truly anchored in self and
Right.
observing,
Right.
that's fun. You're like, yeah, storm. It doesn't bother you. It really doesn't. The bigger the purge, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
this has been my experience and maybe it's been in yours. And
mhm,
like what you say, when you do release it, when it does purify, when it does transmute as
mhm,
energies into light,
mhm.
you do feel lighter.
You feel
You do. I mean,
fantastic. You feel fantastic.
isn't
Yeah.
it? You're just like, oh my God. I mean, you feel lighter, just
Yeah.
your body, because you release that dark, heavy energy,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. It's not only does darkness go, which is one level of feeling amazing, but
Mhm.
light shows up. And that's
Yeah,
another level of amazing.
yeah,
So it's always relief. It's always lightness. It's always smile, happy, peace.
right.
Yeah. And it's always a little bit more love.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Yeah.
love that. And we could go uh um to what I really like is that you're into heart-based consciousness too. Because some people in certain non-dual circles, to me, they could be very heady. It could be very uh I don't know, a little so analytical or a little
Mhm,
and there's
mhm,
nothing wrong with
mhm,
that. I mean,
mhm,
everybody has their place and all
mhm.
teachers and circles has their
Yeah,
unique voice. But I really believe that, going into the heart and the heart base too is where it's really at and where you really deepen your connection with source and
that's it.
spirit.
That's it. It absolutely is. Where we tend to over intellectualize. And I'm not saying that learning, understanding, and reading is bad.
Right.
Do it.
I
Your
agree.
mind wants to
Yeah.
understand. And honestly, sometimes when you understand, it's easier to surrender. But if you stop at the level of the brain and the mind understanding,
Right.
then you're still in the ego. Those are still the ego. And like this workshop that I did recently, I called it the self is the healer, because we're trying to heal from the mind. We're trying to figure out how to heal.
Yeah.
The illness that we're trying to heal is that we have stepped away from the self and gotten lost in the ego.
Mm.
So how can we possibly read our way out of the ego? We can't. You have to surrender and you have to say, I need to go back to this place called the self,
Mm-hmm.
and my brain doesn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to surrender the ego itself. And
Yeah.
that is it's trust and it's
Mm-hmm.
allowing. And when you get there, you realize that the place where the place that has been okay, so the consciousness that has been veiled by the ego is
Mm-hmm.
the self.
Mm-hmm.
The place or the nature of life that has been veiled by the ego is the heart. And you were never not in the heart, but
Mm-hmm.
when the ego is taking your awareness and distracting you, you forget that you're in the heart. The
Mm-hmm.
heart's like the capital H, not the physical organ, the heart space, the heaven, the
Yeah.
kingdom of God, man. The where If God is love, then God's kingdom is the heart. And if God is everywhere, the heart is everywhere. You are in the heart right now. But
Right.
you can either be in the heart and aware of it, or you can be in the heart and you can be worrying about what the ego is telling you.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I love the two words that you mentioned in there that I use a lot is surrender and trust. And I think for a lot of people out there who are just getting into spirituality and everything, and I've certainly have gone through many times where it's like, okay, I trust, and then I don't trust anymore. I got to, I got to take, it's like driving the car. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
source, I give you the, the wheel, and then, no, I got it.
Yep.
I'm not trusting, but you start trusting more. You have to trust. You have to trust. Why do you think it's so hard for people to trust?
I think it's a trauma response from childhood, from
Yeah,
young adulthood, whatever. It's
yeah,
somebody or something or some situation in life didn't treat you right,
right.
and you rose up. It's actually the that the ego, at the end of the day, we have to be loving and compassionate to the ego. It is a protective self-defense that we came up with. And
Yeah,
we came up with it because when we felt vulnerable that first time, we said, nope, I will never feel vulnerable again. I will protect myself. So we came up with this illusion, this lie that I can protect myself and that I can guide myself and I can take care of myself. And I know everything and I know where I can go. And we continue to relive the trauma pattern of vulnerability
hmm,
by expressing the belief that we can protect ourselves and that we can take care of everything.
yeah.
And so anytime somebody else says, I got it, you're like, no, who are you? Where'd you come from? How do you know I got to do? Can I see your references? We just don't believe that life could protect us. And then we've
Right.
become
And I just want to throw in, I mean, I out of the blue, I contacted you and just through an email and now we're talking. I mean, we didn't know each other, so there's a level of trust that
absolutely.
had to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you trust life. Like, because also, like, I'm new to this whole, online thing and videos and YouTube and stuff. And everybody's, whether it's research that you do online or friends and contacts who've been doing this before, the only thing they ever tell you, just like the ego, the only thing they ever tell you is caution. Well, who
Yeah.
is this guy? Where's he from? What kind of
Right.
interview? What kind of questions? Who
Right.
copyright, quotations? Who's going to say
Right.
what? And who's going to distribute where? And where's the
Right.
contract?
Right. 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 Right.
But at some point, you have to trust,
Yeah.
not even, like, with all respect, not even trust you
Yeah.
or trust the advice that I'm getting or trust the research that I'm doing, but trust it
Right.
and
Trust
know that,
this. Yeah.
yeah, even if, let's just say, hypothetically, this guy turns out to be crazy, I'm okay. Like, I'm okay and I will be okay. And the thing that protects me is okay. Exactly. Exactly.
I
Why
love it.
run from everything when you are
Right.
unharmable? It's
Right.
it's why would the sky be afraid of a cloud?
Right.
Even
Right.
if it's a big, fierce, scary cloud,
Right.
there's never been a cloud that harmed the sky ever.
Right. Right. I love it. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we're eternal beings. I mean, we are love. And when you
Yes.
say God is love, I mean, I know that. And I think you do too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
know that. And just on the journey that I've had, it's got to be love. I can't see. I mean, you know that song, Amazing Grace. Amazing
Mm-hmm.
Grace. How what a
Mm-hmm.
wretched soul I was. Whatever. I once was lost. I am now found. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm found, and
Mm-hmm.
you're found.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's love,
Yes,
right?
that's it.
I
That's it.
mean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just
That's why I encourage people to feel that once a day. That's the being meditation I talk about.
uh
Know that you are loved, right?
yeah,
The healing process is to allow yourself to be loved, to trust that you're loved,
right,
like love is coming towards you. Know that you are love.
yeah,
Know that you dwell in love. Know
right,
that the world is a movement of love. And
right,
know that everyone else is an expression of love. And
right,
even though it's been thwarted and distorted and distracted and condensed and shielded and blah, blah, blah,
yeah,
when you peel off the layers, the inside is love.
yeah,
And if you know that, know that, know that,
right,
know that,
right,
the decisions you make in life are going to be so much different. The
yeah,
way you interact with people, what you
yeah,
offer, what you're willing to say yes to is going to be very different.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would add it's unconditional love,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
because
It's unmerited. You don't need to
yeah,
merit it. It's not
right,
earned and it's
right,
not because of something and it's
right.
not even specifically towards somebody. I believe it was Rupert Spira. I learned so many things and I can never remember who,
Right,
but he describes love when you realize that you are love. You start to be love and you start to live as love.
right.
And he describes it as a flower with a fragrance.
Hmm.
And your fragrance is not towards anybody and
Hmm.
it's not caused and it does not end.
Right,
It's just how you are. It's what you are. It's a property of who you are.
right. I love it. And by the way, we have another connection because I love your teachers that you love. Not just Totally, but I love Rupert Spira and Muji.
Sure.
I actually saw Muji about 7 years ago in India and
Oh, wow.
Rishikesh for a couple
Oh,
of days.
that's awesome.
So,
That such and different things. Like I see Rupert Spira. Sorry, I know I pronounced his name wrong. Spira. His stuff is very intellectual. Like
it is. You're
yeah,
right,
for the
right,
brain, because
right,
the brain needs to understand. But
right,
Muji, like that guy, if he couldn't use any words, he wouldn't. Like he just beams love and he's just like,
right,
just relax and love, man.
right,
Relax and love,
right,
you know?
right,
And
right.
then Eckhart talks about what this is the healing, this is the healing, this is what's controlling you. And you need a mixture of them to get the whole picture.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, all those teachers, and there's a bunch of other teachers that I have been influenced by, and I'm sure you have
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And also the new teachers or teachers that are starting to go because like check them out. I mean, you came on my feed, and I'm like, oh yeah, she knows what she's talking about. Like she knows because
Oh,
I mean, I know and she knows, and I just love it.
yeah.
So just talk about surrender. So just let you know we're at an hour. You
That's
okay?
fine. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, great. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm loving this, by the way.
Yes, me too. This is turning out to be so wonderful. Thank you.
Um, so great. So we talked about trust. What about surrender? So surrender, I also teach that a lot, or I talk about surrendering and how important that is. I believe in the journey of just surrendering, just giving up, the ego, and you surrender to the
Absolutely.
higher whatever.
Absolutely.
So you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Right.
Surrender. When I give people advice, the first thing I tell them to do is do a surrender prayer.
Okay.
Surrender is how you acknowledge that the the wound, the first wound, the wound that everything else is a ripple effect from, is that you have pulled away from consciousness, from spirit, from your spirit, from the spirit, right? You've pulled away from it. So you're trying to help yourself. And the ego, the thing that created the problem, the thing that lured you in this direction, is not going to help you find your way home. It won't. In
Mhm.
fact, what it will do is it will keep handing you a map and another map and another map, and it'll say, keep looking, you're almost there, you're almost there. And you will look your entire life. Surrender is when you tell this higher consciousness, you say, listen, I know you know what's going on. Help me bridge that gap in my understanding and do it for me and do it through me. And when you surrender is because the one thing you have that's sort of like impenetrable is your free will, right? And if you don't want help, help isn't going to come. But when you surrender, help shows up. A higher consciousness takes over and it starts to yank you into presence, yank you away from being entrapped by the mind. And it starts to give you guidance on what to do and how to do it, and gives you the strength and holds you while they release these things, right? So surrender makes the process so much faster. And ultimately, surrender shows you that you don't need any of those maps that the ego was trying to give you. Surrender shows you that you were already home,
Yeah.
and that it's the ego that has been lying to you. So surrender is when it starts off as I surrender to that thing.
Mhm.
But again, as Rupert Spira says, um, the individual does not surrender. The individual is surrendered. So it's the process of you realizing that the voice that sounds very much like you, that you've been listening to all this time, is not the truth. So it that's the end result of surrender. But it just starts with saying, I can't figure any of this out. Nothing that she said makes sense there, but I need help, and I know there's something that's helping me. Help me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think help you and help me, and I've definitely have done that many times, and I and help has come.
Yes,
And
always.
yeah, and I just want to say this to like viewers out there who are like, okay, I'm gonna ask for help, and it's like the ego will be like, but I kind of want help in this way, or I kind of want help in this, or I want
Yeah.
this to happen. It's like, no, 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 no.
No.
You are given divine
Yes.
guidance
Yes.
and it knows best.
Hmm.
Source
Hmm.
or spirit knows what's best,
Yes.
right?
And you have to surrender to the process. You have to surrender to what step one is and step two is. You don't get to control that,
Right,
you know? Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah. And it's difficult. And I tell people, when you're praying, when you're saying a surrender prayer, say, I surrender my inability to surrender.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
love it.
I surrender my lack of trust. I get
Right,
it. It's there
right,
and I don't know how to get rid of it. I surrender that
right,
also.
right, right.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Yeah, because those are the blocks, and some people don't realize that they have um, blocks against surrendering and trusting, and but that
Mhm.
energy also needs to be that's could be, I guess, a pain body in a way that
Yeah.
is my inability to trust, my
Yes.
inability to surrender. And I had an inability to trust because I was abused and
Mhm.
sexually abused as a kid by a priest in Catholic Church,
Mm.
and thing. So, and just having my dad had like mental illness, and so I had a very blocks against trusting, even after my awakening, even though after knowing that, oh no, what do you mean? I experienced emptiness and truth and eternity. And yet I still had those layers of those pain bodies of not trusting. And I'm like, so I had to work my way through that and cultivate that muscle. And I noticed that about some of your videos that you talk about. No, you need to cultivate the heart space, or you need to cultivate these things, these spiritual practices, because we've been conditioned to not trust or not, you know,
Mhm.
have a
Mhm.
loving heart. And so,
Absolutely. You have to want to get back those properties, and you have to work almost defiantly towards it. You have to recognize that you're not going to one day find someone
Yeah.
who's going to make you be extremely loving. You're not going to find the situation that's going to be so perfectly safe that you become trusting. And life isn't going to become so impeccably perfect that you are grateful.
Hmm.
Though if you're waiting for the conditions in the world to cause those properties in
Right.
yourself, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Those properties in yourself are allowed. They're strengthened like a muscle that you haven't used in a while.
Right.
The eyes to see, the open heart to feel. Those things you have to build those things. And just like in the morning you get up and you exercise and you have your routine or you have your diet that you eat and you don't eat, you have to say, okay, have I been grateful today? Have I opened myself to love? You have to choose the form that you want and you have to build the muscles that hold that form on purpose.
Yeah.
Gratitude, huge one. I recommend
Yeah.
that to everyone. Absolutely life changing. It changes, it changes what you choose to see. Because if you're waiting for all bad things to stop before you see a good world, you're
Right.
never going to see a good world.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. You talked about radical gratitude, and I love
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
no. And I from other teachers, not just Tole, but I don't know if you Jack Cornfield, you probably
Mhm, mhm.
heard of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And being just grateful. And yeah, I had to cultivate that because I was not very grateful in my previous life,
Of course.
before awakening. I wasn't grateful. I hated the world and I wasn't grateful and I didn't, like myself or love myself and but just being grateful. Now I'm grateful for everything, and it's just amazing
I
how
I can see it. I can like your face is permanently shaped like a smile. Like it's just it's there. Everything you're saying comes from the smile.
oh,
You don't need a cause for your smile. And that's what I'm thank you for sharing about your childhood and abuse and stuff. Um I'm not dismissing people's pains and traumas, right?
right,
But a lot of the time, people don't know that you can come from the depths of hell. Like you can come from absolute suffering,
right,
shame, abuse, just really, really horrible.
right,
And you can make it to this place where your heart is open, you're receiving love, giving love. Your eyes are soft, you're seeing beautiful things out there, you're happy. The first reaction to everything is a smile. You can get there. So it's important for us to share that and to say,
yeah,
yes, yes, you don't have to stay there.
yeah.
And it is possible to recover. To recover, to find again. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and thank you. Yeah, it is, and I didn't, smile, much before. I mean, true, authentic smile and true, like
Yes.
uncaused smiling. Just, oh wow, there's a bird, there's a sidewalk, there's a garbage can. I mean, isn't it crazy how you're just in love with like the mundane
Yes.
things, whereas
Yes.
before, you didn't
Yeah.
care.
If I'm walking through the city streets and stuff, people look at me like, I don't know why is she so happy? Like, I don't know. But it's the bliss of being,
Right,
you know?
right, right,
Nothing is causing it. That there is life. That life is happening is a beautiful feeling. And that's our divine right to experience that is it's not for the few. It's not for like that person's a saint or that person had a
right,
special whatever
right,
or you gave enough to the church and therefore you were blessed with this experience. No, 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 no. Every single human being in
right,
every single moment deserves to feel bliss,
right,
like joy. And you deserve to feel peace, you deserve to feel contentment. Somewhere along the line we were lied to and told that life is a struggle and it's
right,
work and it's hard and it's lonely and it's tough. I can almost hear the voices that told me those things. And it has challenges,
right,
but it is sweet. Life is sweet and you deserve the consciousness of that sweetness. It took me a very long time to realize that the spiritual journey is finding is becoming aware of the fact that life is blissful. And then you become blissful because you're aware of the bliss.
Right, right. The
Yeah.
Sat Chitananda, right?
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
the
I recently did this video. I don't know, I just decided to. I asked ChatGPT. I was like, summarize every single ancient spiritual text ever and every single
Oh,
piece
yeah,
of
I
wisdom from any
actually
spiritual
saw
text
that. I saw
ever.
you holding the phone. Yeah, with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
great.
and if it I asked it to boil it down to one sentence, and I mean essentially it was Satchitananda.
Yeah,
It is that when you remove your awareness from the illusion of the ego and the version of the world that the ego is feeding to you, and
yeah.
you come back to simply being aware of being aware, you'll
Right,
realize that that is the highest bliss that a human being can have.
right,
Such a simple concept, and
right.
it's right there.
And it's uncaused.
Yes,
It's
uncaused.
it's
And yeah,
your natural self,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely. And what is not caused does not end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
It just is. It always has been and always will be.
And always will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And
Isn't that lovely?
it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And it's wonderful to get out of that prison of the ego. And I think of just what you said before is that there could be people watching this, feeling that they're in the prison, but if they're watching this and or, spiritual teachers that they are like breaking out of that prison or this is the beginning of their journey.
Yes.
And what I wanted to say is that some people might ask, which, and I did, of why do we have to go through what we have to go through? Okay. Why do we have to? And to me, part of it is I've learned so much wisdom and learned things about just myself and deepen my relationship with the divine and just this whole spiritual journey that um I had to go through what I had to go through to get to where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
Right now. I know back in the day, I wasn't grateful and I hated it. And I was like, oh, these people had better lives than me. Why do I have this shitty life? Blah, blah, blah. And why am I in this family or, whatever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
checklists of
Mm-hmm.
why I'm not accepting life
Yeah.
in this incarnation.
Yeah.
And I finally started accepting it and loving it, that's where, gifts started coming and more healing,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yes.
deeper realizations and everything like
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. I love how you said, I forgot what you said, but I think you said like you don't regret what happened.
yeah, I don't. Yeah,
You don't wish that it didn't happen.
right.
And that, we're both coming from a place of heaviness. My childhood was full of all kinds of abuse and society, teenage years, injustices, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did not enjoy it. But if I had to write the script for my next incarnation, or if I had to go back in time before I came as this human and be like, what would you like to scratch from this incarnation? I wouldn't scratch anything.
Right.
And it's for a couple of reasons. One is if the misery caused me to awaken, I
Hmm.
would rather have awakened from a miserable life than
Right.
to still be unconscious in a bearable life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the second thing is, and I'm very, very grateful for this. I realized this recently when life guided me to be to help people and support people. If the things that I went through makes me compassionate
Hmm.
and can help me to guide people, then okay, that's why I went through it, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. Um, yeah, and it's like before, oh, I don't care about other people. But now it's like going through this spiritual process.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's like you do want to share,
Mm-hmm.
you do want to share with others
Yes.
and let them know that, hey, you can awaken too, and you can heal, and
Mm-hmm.
you could uh the suffering can go down and you could be to me, it's like you become what source wants you to be or what spirit
Yes.
really wants you to be.
Yes, exactly. When the darkness transmutes, it transmutes into light.
Yeah.
And light can only guide people. You can't help but be used as a guide in some
Yeah.
way or another. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's I mean, I'm just having such a great time with you. Um, maybe we could talk about one more thing
Sure.
and then wrap things up. One of the
Absolutely.
things I love about what you talk about sometimes is you like mentioning either movies or TV shows. I think in a recent one you mentioned The Matrix,
Yeah.
where Neo, was getting, bullets and he like either what surrendered to it or something like that,
Mhm,
or he
mhm.
knew.
He refused to dodge them because he realized I don't need to dodge this.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I love because I do movies or TV shows and I look at the spiritual significance of
Yeah.
them. So I just love that we could um in pop culture, there's a lot of great stories out there
Mhm,
that
mhm.
actually have spiritual significance,
Yeah.
to them.
Absolutely. I love it. And it's sort of my dream. I'm saying it here, I'm declaring it. One day I will write books and movies that depict this concept. It's what I really wanted to do. This year,
Great.
I like the 1st of January, I made my vision of what I want for the year. And I was like, I'm gonna write this great novel. And then I opened my laptop and a self-help book came out. I was like, okay, well, I guess that's what I'm doing. But I'm honoring the fact that that came through me. But the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write fiction so we can get it. Because I
Uh-huh.
think it when you can, that's what I love about Star Trek, is that when you can take what you're going through and put it in a different scenario and have somebody look
Yeah.
at it, you go, oh, I get it. I totally get it. And the Matrix is one of the best depictions of consciousness,
I love it.
ego, illusion. Yeah,
Yep.
it's brilliant. A few others. Uh, what's it called? The Truman Show
Truman
is
Show.
a
Yep.
really good
Yep.
example of how the ego builds a false narrative.
Yep.
I think of Christoph, the guy who lives in the moon, as
Yep.
Christ off. So he's like the ego consciousness.
Yep.
And when he tries to escape the ego was prepared to kill him. And he had to, the way he binds himself to that boat and he says, I am getting out of here.
Yeah.
That strength of will, it gives me chills every
Yeah.
time.
No,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I've done my interpretations of the Truman Show and the Matrix and other movies such as It's a Wonderful Life
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, and
Is this stuff on your channel? Do you do
yeah,
them?
yeah,
Okay, I'm
they're
gonna go
old.
look
They're
into that.
they're older. They're older, and the what was some other good ones? I'm trying to think of the Star Wars in
Yes.
and Indiana Jones, the Last Crusade, had some really good
Yeah.
spiritual stuff in there.
Yeah.
So
I think people who figure it out, they don't really know where else to put it. So they go and they say, let me leave it here. And when people are ready, they'll see it.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that.
Oh,
And I hope to be one of those people.
yeah, no, I think it's great. It's funny that you mentioned that because I tried screenwriting for many years.
Yeah.
It was a source of a pain body for me.
Oh.
I mean, I got a manager, but I never went further. But it was something that I needed to give up. But I did
Okay.
too have believe wanted to maybe do a movie or TV show for the spirituality. So
Okay. Well,
so who
you
knows?
never know. Maybe if you're ever guided to it again, if it's
Yeah,
for your highest good, then I really wish you well and I look forward
yeah,
to seeing what you come up
yeah,
with.
yeah. What's
Yeah.
your book is called Art of Being.
The Art of Being, a
Great,
one-step guide to finding peace, love, and joy.
great,
And it's
great.
available on Amazon.
It's available on Amazon.
Yeah,
Great.
The Art of Being by Shristy. Yeah.
Okay, great, great. And it took you wrote it a couple years ago or
No, I wrote it this year,
oh
in
really?
January. Yeah. So I opened up my laptop, prepared to write a novel, and a self-help book came out, and it came out spontaneously. I wrote the whole thing in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, you remember that story I was telling you about, the older lady who I was like, if I could boil this down to one thing that I can tell somebody in 1 minute, what would it be?
Right.
And it was like being.
Yeah.
So shortly after that, a week or two after that, this book came out, and it was just very simply, what is, well, first is, what is your nature? you have forgotten its nature. How did you forget? How did this ego become the thing that controls your version of the world?
Yeah.
And then how do you get away from that? And at the end of every single chapter, I put the simplest, most straightforward meditation techniques to experience being, experience stillness, conscious breath, and then we bring up the pain bodies and then how to release the pain bodies. And it is
Great.
simple. It is straightforward.
Great.
It's the whole thing right there in a package. And I'm really amazed. I'm very humbled at how it came. I'm proud of it, but I'm not going to
Yeah.
say that it's because I'm smart. It came from the higher consciousness. It really did.
That's
It
great.
and it's amazing. I learned a lot from it. It's great. I hope you have a look at it and see
Yeah,
if you like
yeah,
it.
yeah. I love to take a look at it soon, and
Yeah.
I hope if people watching this that they pick up a copy for themselves and
I
everything.
hope so. I look forward to, at the back of the book, it has an email where you can write me and tell me what do you get, what don't you get, whatever. What did you think of it? I'd love to hear. I love the idea of just feedback. That would be lovely.
Great, great,
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Gr- All right. Well,
Yeah.
Shristi, thank you so much for
Thank you.
talking. And
Yes. Thank you, Noah. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for just the joy of discussing and contemplating these concepts and
yeah,
of connecting with other people and of bringing it to everybody in the simplest everyday language. I absolutely love your videos,
thank you. Yeah,
how everyday they are. I know that's not a word, but they're very everyday. They're very just like right now I'm walking down the street and I'm peaceful, I'm happy.
yeah,
And that's what spirituality is about. It's not, if it's fancier than that, then it's not the truth of, life. So I
yeah,
really appreciate that. And I'm really glad we found each other. Thank you for
yeah.
reaching out to me.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And it's been a pleasure. I had a great time.
Yes.
And thank you, all of you people watching out there.
Yes.
And hopefully this has been helpful to you, and I know it has been. And until we meet again
Yes.
next time in this beautiful, blessed, full of unconditional love now moment.